got to see a lot more today than we have in the last few practices. So definitely shout out to South Carolina for letting us stick around a little bit longer.
A couple of notes here from y'all's Insider Forum. Dre Jacobs, practice today. It sounds like he's maybe been a little bit banged up so far through camp. And again, you guys don't get to see the entire thing, so don't have the full context on that as of right now. But in what is, of course, a very open wide receiver room, as talked about many times, we hope Dre Jacobs in his second year, and he dealt with injuries last year as well, is hopefully maybe a player in this thing and contributing a lot, in his second full year here at South Carolina.
Yeah, no, Dre's definitely a guy that we probably don't talk about enough compared to, like, we talk about the older guys in the room. We talk about Mazeo Bennett, Nick Harbor. We talk about Jared Brown. We talk about those guys. The one that seems to kind of get lost in the shuffle in between those three guys and the freshmen and receivers, who we'll get into pretty shortly here, I'm sure, is Vandravius Jacobs. Yeah, he was banged up a lot last year, didn't have a ton of action out there, had a few nice catches, but we really didn't get to see the full extent of what he can do. So it's good to see that he was back out there and practicing. Wes Mitchell, who does a fantastic job here and also on Gamecock Central, did note that he had heard that Dre was a little bit dinged up early on in camp. So it's good to see that he was out there and he was catching punts with the guys today. So that was good.
Speaking of receivers, and this is something that's always going to get people excited, Donovan Murph's a name that we've been talking about for a very long time since he committed to Carolina. Obviously, reclassified, came in here a year early, and has been putting in the work since he's been on campus. And he was noted as having good route running as well as making a one-hand catch himself at some point. Now, was there not enough air on that throw? Was it over his head? Like, what's the criticism on that throw? I guess if we're gonna examine both sides of the coin.
I need to see the highlight because I've been taking video of practice, but I did not see that in real time. I think Big Spur posted the highlight there, which I saw for like just a brief second. Looked pretty cool. So, I mean, look, even we noted on Gamecock Central, I mean, like, Donovan Murph, he is the only freshman wide receiver to have joined in the summer. So he had a little bit of work to do in terms of, getting caught up. And he probably still is getting caught up and learning the offense and all that. But there's no doubt South Carolina sees something there, and he's definitely impressed from the time that we've seen him out there.
Yeah, and again, you're looking at a wide receiver room that, for guessing right now, you're going to say Nick Harbor, Mazeo Bennett, Jared Brown, hopefully stays healthy. That's probably like your best guess at a top three. But as I mentioned earlier with Wes and Chris, it's not like two of those guys are coming off of 800, 900-yard seasons where you say that definitely, boom, those guys are your lock 1, 2, and maybe you have a competition for third. Realistically, it's all wide open, and Beamer preaches competition all the time, and I look at that wide receiver room as the perfect example of that. Like, yes, I assume Nick Harbor is going to be significantly better in year number 3, but gosh, if Donovan Murph or Brian Rowe or Lex Cyrus or any of these guys is just balling out in camp, they're going to get an opportunity.
They should. I mean, we saw it last year with Mazeo Bennett. I remember Shane talking, I think it was at Birdie's or one of those early preseason camp, media availabilities, and he was talking about, hey, Mazeo Bennett, he's going to have a chance to play right away and make an impact, and of course he did, and caught his first touchdown against Kentucky, had the one against Alabama there, and had one later in the year. Like, he had a very solid year for a freshman receiver. So, and he was just one guy. Again, South Carolina, Mike Furry, they have really went all in to build up this receiver corps where you have like 6, 7 guys that are competing for reps as freshman wide receivers. So it's a group that has a lot of potential, a lot of talent. We may not see all of them this year, but I'd be shocked if we didn't see a few of them.
So we're a week into camp now. You guys have been out there to observe 3 different practices, counting today's. And tomorrow you get your first scrimmage of camp. Of course, that's not open to media, so it is going to be based on, what's being told to you from the people on the inside there. And there'll be, I think 3 before we get into the season starting, so one every Saturday?
That's what it would seem like. I'll double-check, but that should be the case.
So with that, obviously, you're getting more actual game feel situations. Again, it's not going to be any crowd there, so you're going to have to simulate noise and those kind of things. But as we noted on earlier, in practice, if you line up wrong or if you do something wrong, pre-snap, hey, coach is going to blow the whistle, come in there, tell you what to adjust and get in a better position. But when you're actually in a scrimmage, it's being treated like an actual game. I'm assuming they're going to have officials out there to, call penalties and those kind of things. So it's going to give you the best glimpse into what you are in terms of your game readiness, better than anything you've seen so far in camp. And look, there's going to be some bumps and stuff in the first scrimmage. That's kind of natural. Obviously, by that third scrimmage, you want to be as locked in and as good looking as possible heading heading into that game against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and you mentioned the third scrimmage. They only have 2 listed on the practice schedule, so so 1 tomorrow and then 1 next Saturday.
Okay.
So South Carolina should only have 2 scrimmages, but again, they probably run 11 on 11 in practice anyway. So
Sure.
this is just more so being in the stadium, having the as close as you can to a game like atmosphere without the fans there. I'm sure there'll probably be some people watching, but again, no fans, no media there. So it's
you have to be a somebody to get in there and watch that.
yeah, you gotta be like again, we were talking about earlier, like maybe like I think Gamecock Club members, maybe something like that.
You gotta have high clearance.
You gotta know somebody, probably to get in. So but yeah, so it should be interesting to see what comes out of that scrimmage. Again, we're gonna have plenty of coverage on GamecockCentral.com. Again, the guys do such a good job over there getting intel and bringing that to the website. So that'll definitely be coming out tomorrow and Sunday. But I'm looking forward to seeing what these scrimmages can bring because, again, we're going to learn a lot about this team. Maybe not seeing with our own eyes, but we'll hear a lot. It's like, all right, here's who's standing out.
Well, and there's a lot of position groups that, as we've talked about the entire offseason now, you really want to see how they handle those game type situations. And one that's been a hot topic this week is obviously those linebackers replacing the production you had a year ago. We loved what we heard from, J.R. Johnson when talking to you guys in the media room the other day. And this is your first kind of glimpse, say, okay, it's kind of backing up what we're hearing, or maybe we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So, and one area as well, I talk about is the rapport between Lenora Sellers as well as Boaz Stanley, who we assume is going to be the starting center. And again, you're working together every single day in practice, which is great, but having a game situation to continue that chemistry and that development between those two hopefully goes a long way because, again, you have a guy in Sellers that's now probably doing a lot and helping bring along Boaz Stanley to get up to this level of competition that he, quite frankly, just hasn't seen a lot of in his time at Troy.
You're going to need to have those two in sync. You're gonna need to have Boaz in sync with the rest of the offensive line in general. Like he mentioned earlier this week in media availability that like the toughest part about playing center on the offensive line is making sure the chemistry is where it needs to be. Like it has to be like if you're not communicating the right way, you're going to be screwed. I mean, like you have to have that good rapport with your quarterback and the rest of the offensive line. Because say you're in Baton Rouge, LSU, 100,000 people there, Saturday night, Death Valley, it's roaring, rocking in there, and you can't hear a thing. That's where that chemistry that you have built in can really help moving forward.
Absolutely. And when you have a guy like Lenore Sellers, a quarterback, you have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in what this team's going to be. But where's your hope meter exactly hitting when it comes to this upcoming 2025 season? Mark Cooper, The Athletic, has his annual Hope-O-Meter poll going out on The Athletic. We'll dive into what exactly that means and what South Carolina fans felt going into last season coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head and Jack Belger hanging out with you on your Friday here on The Game. How do you quantify hope going into a football season? What is your definition of what hope should be for a football fan base?
It's a new season. The grass is cut. It's getting to that time of year. You're always going to have hope because it's a new season, right? And if you're a team like South Carolina coming off the one from last year, you feel very optimistic. But at the same time, you look at history, it's like, hope can always be fleeting.
Do you think every fan base should have high hope going into every single year?
Nah, no way. Because, like, if you're – I mean, there are some bad programs out there that are going to have rough seasons. It's like you don't have much hope when it comes to those types of teams. But if you're a big team, again, SEC, like I think every team in the SEC has hope this year, besides Mississippi State, maybe Kentucky.
Yeah, Mississippi State. Is Arkansas hopeful?
I mean, what are Arkansas's, like, 6 wins, 7 wins?
If they get to 6 wins in a bowl game,
I think that is acceptable. They're not contending for a title, so.
I don't even know if that's enough to save Sam Pittman's job because then you're just accepting mediocrity at that point. But I'd say their hope's pretty low. But yeah, Mississippi State's probably at the basement of hope in the SEC, I would say.
Yeah,
which is fair.
Yeah, but point is, a lot of teams can have hope, but again, there's a lot that probably are not feeling very good about the season that they might have.
So I asked this question because Mark Cooper of The Athletic annually puts out his Hope-O-Meter, which it starts out as yesterday as a poll that he runs through The Athletic. You have to be a subscriber to vote in it, but he simply asks the question. He'll ask your name. He'll ask what team you cheer for, and then he asks one question: are you optimistic about your team's prospects for 2025? You can say, yes, I'm optimistic and hopeful, or no, I'm not. I did this yesterday for South Carolina. I voted for hopeful because I am optimistic about what this team's going to be. And then he had a link to last year's results. And I was maybe not surprised, I guess, to find out. And again, this is a sample size of between 4,000 and 5,000 people. Doesn't speak for everyone, but as you know, and I brought up, Family Feud, they do a survey of 100 people to get their answers because you feel like that's kind of a sentiment of the majority of what people would say. So even if you only had 100 people from each fan base, I still think you can take something away from these answers. South Carolina last year was 47% optimistic, 53% pessimistic going into the 2024 season.
I can't really blame anybody because they're coming off a 5-7 season, but again, last year makes a lot of sense. They were not very good in 2023, but I think a lot of that gets lost in the shuffle of, like, if a few things go their way, like, again, if they didn't get off to such a horrible start in the Clemson game, they played very well defensively in that game, so they could have easily won. Injuries were also a big issue. I mean, what happens if Juice Wells is healthy the entire year? But not to make this about 2023, but you see what I'm saying. Like,
sure. And then the previous season dictates a lot of where that hope comes from.
Exactly.
Hey, here's the last thing I saw, and then today so much roster turnover happens. You're just guessing on a lot of things, right? But your identity of that team is, hey, last time I saw them play, here's what they were.
Exactly. So coming into this year, 9-win season from a year ago, you're feeling very good. There's going to obviously be a lot more optimism this year just by the nature of the team was better last year. But I think from a South Carolina standpoint, they don't have the rich tradition of winning every single year. Like, they haven't had a 10-plus win season in over a decade. So I see both sides of it. Like, if you want to be optimistic, sure, I don't blame you. But I also see, like, the standpoint of you lost a lot. And South Carolina doesn't necessarily have the greatest track record of following up with a really good season once again.
And I think you look at last year where, the year prior you had a very experienced quarterback in Lenore Sellers. And going into last year, yes, we'd seen promise out of Lenore Sellers, but we didn't truly know what he was going to be as a starting quarterback. You look at a lot of the guys that got in the transfer portal last offseason, I'd say outside of Rocket Sanders, nobody was like, hey, wow, this is a big-time get for South Carolina. And you'd look at, like, all right, Demetrius Knight, he was good at Charlotte. What's that going to mean in the SEC? Torricelli Simpkins III played in the FCS. What's that going to mean?
Yeah.
And those two guys ended up being two of the most important guys on this entire team a year ago. So you just truly don't know. But I can understand where that 47% comes from, or I guess the 53% comes from. People are like, yeah, I'm hoping, but I'm not the most confident in it.
Just, again, too many unknowns. You're basing it a lot based on what happened a season ago. And I don't really think that's a a fair way to look at how a team is going to be in 2020, like for the next season, like in 2025, just because the rosters are so different every year now. It's not like 10, 15 years ago where, yeah, you have guys transfer, but it's not like mass exodus like it is now in college athletics. Like your team could look vastly different in the span of an offseason. So at South Carolina, they lost a lot due to guys running out of eligibility and whatnot, but they also had some guys transfer, brought a lot of new guys in. And so a lot of the judgment is based off what they did last year. But again, we really just won't know what it looks like until we see this team in action.
What do you think was the lowest point of the entire year last year? Like that one moment where everybody looked at each other and said, this is pretty awful.
The Ole Miss game. I mean, again, I've spoken about before, like the Monday coming in here after that game, you're just like, what the heck happened in that game? And they were coming off a bye week.
Yep.
That was the main point. They looked so unprepared.
After going toe-to-toe with LSU a couple weeks before.
If you had told me that team would have gone on a 6-game winning streak to close out the regular season and go to Clemson to win the Palmetto Bowl and have a chance at the college football playoff, I would have told you you're insane.
Yeah.
Like that team that showed up in that game, the game was over after the fake punt. Like 10 minutes into the game, it was over.
That fake punt may be like a single moment, maybe the single lowest moment of the entire season. That was early in the game too. It wasn't like this was late in the fourth quarter, but the execution of it, not realizing what Ole Miss had on the field to defend it. It was their defense, basically, not their coverage team for the punt. Like, it shut it down quickly, gave them a short field, and again, Carolina just didn't show up for the rest of that game.
No.
I'd say the Old Dominion game is a close second.
It woke I think it woke them up to the realization of like, hey, here's what can happen if you keep it way too close.
Because I went back after the season and I dug through our Firehouse Subs text line to find some of the text messages that came in after that Old Dominion game.
Oh.
There were people like,
season's over.
This team's going to win 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
Sellers isn't the guy, blah, 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 blah.
Again,
and like, I don't blame you for feeling that way. You are justified.
The first game of the season.
You're justified in your reaction to seeing what you saw in that first game. And we were watching the game there, like, are they about to lose to Old Dominion? And again, Old Dominion was like a 6-6 team the year before. It's not like this was a team that was
FCS Sun Belt team,
a New Year's Six bowl game or something along those lines. So that was definitely one of the lower moments. And then on the other end, I think you'd certainly look at the overall Clemson game, but Sellers running in the touchdown, and then Demetrius Knight sealing the game with his interception.
Yeah.
That might be like the top of the best moments of the entire year.
Like, they had to go through some struggles early on in the year. I mean, they were 3-3 at one point.
Yeah.
After the Alabama game, it's like, I don't know, man. This team, I don't see it. The schedule is going to be tough. You got a lot of really tough games on that schedule. Look, it's going to be the same. If South Carolina drops one of these games early on in the year, it's going to be the same thing where you have people overreacting and they're like, oh, this team sucks. They're not going to be very good. And then it's like, you just got to let it play out, I think.
You do.
Because I get it. It's normal to be pessimistic and whatnot, but definitely let it play out and see what happens because look at last year.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to see. So Carolina was at 47% on the optimism scale last year, or hope-o-meter, excuse me, last year. I gave the guess earlier. I'd say probably about 70-30, maybe 60-40. Definitely more optimistic than a year ago, and a lot of that does have to do with Sellers and Stewart. But like last year, you still have a lot of questions at a lot of spots.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So the final results have not come in yet. Okay.
The article went up yesterday, and where you can vote on it, and he runs it for about 2 weeks, and then he'll release the results sometime around the 20th or the 21st. So he lets it run 2 weeks, and you can vote multiple times if you want. So again, it's not a definitive answer for every fan base, but I think it's a good glimpse into the way that they think.
It gives you a good idea of how everyone's feeling, and we'll definitely have to re-rack that part of the conversation in a few weeks when it does come time.
Definitely so, and so that's the look at Carolina's numbers. Some of the other numbers going into last year were quite surprising, and we'll also see who we think might be overhyping their team as well as underhyping their team as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry with you on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Friday on the Game. Reminder, 2 weeks from today, it is the Game Summer Golf Classic at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Tee times at 9, registrations at 7:30. We'll have onion sausages for breakfast, Firehouse subs for lunch, and, of course, Saki's Wine and Spirits for the Mimosa Bar as well. Going to be a great time. Hope to see you out there. We'll have prizes to give away as well as the golf gun making its return. If you want to be a part of it, give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up. It's only $400 per team. So, again, Game Summer Golf Classic coming up on August the 22nd. By the way, I did watch the Donovan Murphy clip in the break there. Maybe passed a little high, which is why he had one hand. I couldn't tell who was throwing it to him, but an impressive catch nonetheless.
Yeah, no, definitely a good one there. And look, as we mentioned, Donovan Murphy, the only freshman wide receiver joined the team in the summer here. So a little bit of catching up to do, but in terms of making a really nice play there, that was really fantastic to see.
So we're talking about hope here. We went into Mark Cooper's article on The Athletic, the Hope-O-Meter, where he looks at, the results of his poll with respect to fan bases. It's only for Power 4. It's not Kent State and teams like that. But Power 4 fan bases and their hope going into their respective seasons. Last year, South Carolina's was only 47 in a year that obviously got them into the vicinity of making the college football playoff. But going back and looking at last year's results going into the year, it is kind of interesting to look back on which fan bases were really excited and which ones not so much, and how some of those ended up kind of going in the opposite direction. Here's your 100 club from last year. These fan bases, according to this poll, were 100% optimistic in what their team was going to do this year. Tennessee made the college ball playoff. I would say, they're pretty satisfied with that. Again, you would have liked to have gone deeper, but you did get bounced by the eventual national champion, so no shame in that, I guess.
Yeah, no shame at all, really, honestly. It's one of those things where it's really tough to win in college football, and you just never know what's going to happen on a year-to-year basis.
Ole Miss. Now, look, I penciled them into my playoff before the season even started.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
It seemed like the stars were aligning, the talent, the coaching, all that kind of stuff. They were finally going to make that run, and then they lost games like Kentucky that they had no business losing.
Yeah, they also lost in the swamp at Florida. I mean, they did lose some games. It's like you win those games, you're in the playoff, no doubt.
Yeah.
And they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat to get into the playoff, but they beat the high quality teams that they needed to beat, but they lost the games that they probably shouldn't have lost.
Kansas State, now like so many teams, they were in the mix to win the Big 12 late, and just didn't quite get there. But again, 9-4 campaign, solid for them. Again, they obviously want to take that next step, but I don't feel like they're upset when they go 9-4 out there in Manhattan, Kansas.
No, and again, the thing with the Big 12 is that's the wild, wild west out there.
Yes, it is.
We really don't know who's going to win the conference this year. You could easily say Arizona State because they made it to the college football playoff last year and won the Big 12. But again, you just never know. It's going to be one of those things where a bunch of teams are going to be locked together, competing to the end to try to get to Dallas for that championship game. 2
other Big 12 teams, by the way, that were in the 100 club. Kansas, now Jalen Daniels got hurt last year, so that hindered them a lot. And Oklahoma State, their fall from grace was astonishing.
They
especially
were awful last year.
Ollie Gordon was perhaps the best running back coming back last year. They beat Arkansas early in the year and then just couldn't do anything in Big 12 play.
No, they were terrible last year. What, they had 3 wins last year? I think
it was 3-9, yeah.
Yeah, and they did not win a single Big 12 game. I mean, they were pathetically bad last year. And so, look, Mike Gundy's been there for well over 2 decades now. I mean, you hope that they're able to turn around, because if not, this could probably be his last year there.
Louisville, 100% optimistic. They went 9-4. Second year on Jeff Prom.
Had a decent little season last year.
That's fine. They beat Clemson last year, if I remember correctly. Am I thinking about that correctly? That was one of Clemson's losses.
I don't believe so.
Or maybe that was the year before. I don't remember. I think it was the year before.
Yeah.
But either way, like a 9-4 year for Louisville, I think that's solid, and one that the fan base for the most part would be pretty pleased with. Pulling up their schedule now from last year.
Yeah,
is either last year or the year before, one of those where they just ran roughshod over
they did.
Clemson.
It
was last year.
They won at Clemson.
Because remember, the fans were leaving early because it was such a one-sided game.
That's
and,
right.
Tyler Shuck at quarterback.
Yeah, 33-21, November 2nd.
That was last year. And then NC State, funny enough, 100% optimism. They went 6-7. And Dave Doran's, they're having some uncomfortable conversations about him and Raleigh.
Yeah, NC State is always decent, but I don't know. I mean, again, the ACC is one of those conferences. It's like it's similar to the Big 12 in that you're going to have a lot of middle of the pack, mediocre teams, and I probably see NC State probably being one of them.
Well, one of the teams that ended up at the bottom of the barrel for the ACC last year. How about Florida State? Last year, 96% optimism on the hope-o-meter, which, hey, you were a 13-0 team.
Yeah.
You won the conference, and again, the committee did not let you in the playoff when you very well should have been. I mean, there was no reason to think you weren't going to be back in that conversation again, and my God, we could not have been more wrong.
Yeah, no one could have seen the season that they had last year coming. I mean, it was brutal. And I see one of the comments here on The Athletic with this story. It says, Florida State fan, none in terms of hope this year.
Oh,
so,
well, and especially when you're starting against Alabama,
yeah,
where, let's face it, they could beat you about 3 or 4 touchdowns, to where people might be selling their season tickets in the parking lot after the game if that happens.
Yeah.
Because, again, you had a rough season last year, and you want some kind of inkling. Like, they don't have to win that game. If Alabama beats them on a last-second field goal, I think the people in Tallahassee would be like, all right, we're at least competitive.
But like, you expect more as a team that 2 years ago was right in the mix of playing for a national championship potentially.
How about Virginia Tech? Last year, 98%, and they went, 6-7.
Oh,
Brent Pryce on the hot seat. Again, Carolina gets them in week 1, but they were pretty darn optimistic, it seems like, going into week 1 last year.
They should have been. They had a great year 2 years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, and they laid an egg against Vanderbilt in week 1. Now, preface, I mean, like, we didn't know what Vanderbilt was going to be, winning 7 games last year and really having a nice season, beating number 1 Alabama, but, like, it was Vanderbilt we're talking about. And you look at that game, it's like, Virginia Tech, the team that probably was a dark horse to win the ACC last year, lost that game right out of the gate. That kind of just ruined the season for them, and obviously they just did not perform very well last year, and the hopes are not very high this year.
How about Arizona State? 45% last year, in a team that won the conference, made the playoff, and let's be honest here, probably should have beaten Texas in that Peach Bowl.
Where were they picked in the preseason poll last year? Weren't they picked last?
Dead last.
Yeah.
Yeah, dead last in the preseason poll.
Yeah, so and they went out there and won the Big 12 and took Texas down to the wire in the Peach Bowl and should have won that game, I think, in a lot of ways.
And look, I don't blame them. Do you know what Kenny Dillingham's record in his first year at Arizona State was?
Not off the top of my head.
3-9.
Ooh.
They went 3-9 with Kenny Dillingham, and that was their last year in the Pac-12, obviously. But they were transitioning over to a new conference. They had only a second-year head coach. I understand why completely.
Exactly.
They're like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be that good. Boy, were they wrong.
Yeah, and now Kenny Dillingham is probably one of the better young coaches in college football. So it's crazy how the narrative can shift within a few months of just winning games. Winning does take care of a lot of things.
So if you're looking at this through the lens of what's a team that you think might be overly optimistic about their chances this year, is there anybody that comes to mind?
There are a lot of different teams I could probably say for this. Overly optimistic. I don't know. Maybe like Tennessee. Like I don't even know if they're that optimistic. Like
if Nico was back, sure. I think the quarterback triangle you have right now probably leads to a lot of pessimism.
I'll say, I'll stay in the SEC on this. I'll say Alabama. I just think there is a lot of optimism there because you have a lot of guys coming back, but I think some of the problems are your quarterback situation. How is that going to work out? And also, this team was horrendous on the road last year, losing a lot of games they shouldn't have lost. So what happens on the road this year for them? And
optimism means something different for every single team. And,
of course.
Again, when Louisville says we're optimistic, hey, you went 9-4. That's not bad. Or 9-3, whatever they went last year. When you talk about Alabama, like optimism is, hey, we're going to win the national championship.
It has to be.
Or at the very least make the playoff, which they didn't do last year.
That's the built-in expectation because you saw what Nick Saban did year after year. And again, that was in the BCS 4-team college football playoff era. Where now it really is 12 teams. It's a grind to get to the national championship and win it all.
I look at Illinois. I feel like the Illinois fan base is going to be hype.
Of course, because they won 10
this year.
They won 10 games last year, and I think South Carolina would be saying the same exact thing if they had won that game last year. Even though I feel like there is a lot of high hope this year for
and you
Carolina.
hear a lot of the national prognosticators that talk about it like, man, Illinois has a chance to be the next Indiana. They're going to be a team that their schedule works out this way, and they've got all these guys coming back. They're being hyped up as that potential, surprise playoff team that, nobody's talked about the Illinois program like that in forever.
And they have a quarterback. They have Luke Altmaier. Now, they did lose their top wide receiver from last year with Pat Bryant, but
and their top running back.
Yeah, their top running back who torched South Carolina in the bowl game last year. So they did lose some weapons and whatnot, but look, this is a team that has, I think, like you said, a favorable schedule that I think can work out. And if they play their cards right, win the games they're supposed to, we are probably going to be talking about them as a team that is competing to make the playoff down the road.
And I had Colorado as a team that may be underselling themselves because you lost, Shador Sanders, you lost a generational talent in Travis Hunter. We don't know what Dion is like not coaching his kids in college. We'll see, but I imagine Colorado fans may be a little bit down on themselves this year.
Probably. I just feel like we haven't heard enough about Colorado during this offseason, in terms of what they're going to look like this year. It's just, I feel like it's a mixed bag. I'm not expecting them to be really top of the Big 12, but they could surprise us.
We'll certainly have to see. I was doing some perusing on Twitter yesterday, and Kansas State is rolling out some new menu items for their games this year, and I want to talk about how adventurous we get when we go to sporting events when it comes to food. That's coming up next to wrap up hour number 1 of the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher, Captain Dave behind the glass on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It's the halftime show. Tyler, Jack, Cap, and Dave with you on your Friday here on the game. I saw this tweet last night. Tim Everson, who's a beat writer for Kansas State, who we just talked about in the last segment there, is a program that's very optimistic, apparently, heading into last year, and decent season. He said Kansas State just announced some new concession items for this season, which includes a chicken chipotle raspberry burrito, a hot honey chicken and waffle sandwich, chicken parm sandwich, meatball sub, and a Philly cheese wrap, which you'll be able to, I guess, get at all Kansas State home games out there in Manhattan. And it begged a thought in my mind. I'm not somebody that gets very adventurous when it comes to concession stand food. My wife and I went to the Fireflies game last Friday, and it rained after an inning. But still, we got some food, sat there, watched the rain. I had a hot dog, I had French fries, and I bought a beer. That's it.
Normal food.
Normal food. And they have things there that, you can get adventurous with. But I've never had a desire to go get the weird items at sporting events.
A chicken chipotle raspberry burrito.
Like chicken, good. I'm assuming it's fried.
What the heck is that?
Chipotle, good. A little bit of spice. I enjoy Chipotle on stuff. I don't know what the raspberry adds. Like, you have a sweetness there for sure. I don't know about mixing meat with fruit and in a burrito too, because a burrito you get everything just kind of mashed together, right? When you roll it up, and everything. So, is the Chipotle and raspberry gonna mix well? Like, I have questions.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do too much there. But hey, that's just that's our guess on that. But the hot honey chicken and waffle sandwich,
which that doesn't sound terrible. I don't know, but like, am I gonna get that at a sporting event? Is my question.
Here's the other thing with the sandwich there. Now, is it on a bun? Is the waffle the bun?
I would assume the waffle's the bun. Right?
I would have to imagine, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. I would guess.
So when you go to a sporting event, baseball, football, basketball, what's your go-to?
Like, none of this stuff. I mean, I don't know. I remember back in high school, I think I saw the baseball typically has some weird
yes,
concession.
They do.
They have some very weird concession items. I saw the Seattle Mariners years ago were selling crickets.
I remember seeing that. Yes,
like bugs to eat, which is like I don't think you can really top that. But I
think it's like candied crickets, right?
Yeah, like this stuff that they have selling at Kansas State for this year is nowhere near as bad.
And in preparing for this segment, I did kind of go down a little bit of the rabbit hole when it came to weird food items at sporting events, and Major League Baseball takes the cake with some of the stuff you can find there.
Oh, you can find some crazy stuff there. But I think my go-to concession order items are like hot dog, like a chicken sandwich is never bad. Like Chick-fil-A is usually.
Pizza's always good. That's fine.
Like popcorn, pretzel, like your normal concession food items. Like, I like when there's a little bit of variety. Like when you have stuff like this, like you go to like going to Yankee Stadium for baseball. Like, they have a ton of different items there that you can get. Like your premier items, your normal items. Have a little bit of everything for everyone, but that's like that in most places.
To me, if I'm going to a baseball game, I got to have a hot dog.
Totally.
That is the most quintessential American snack food at a baseball game is a hot dog. And now I may get something else later, but like I can't go to a baseball game and not eat a hot dog at some point.
But like a football game, like, I mean, a burger's always good. Like just easy to make stuff, not this over-the-top stuff.
I think about the feasibility of trying to eat something in a stadium seat, right? And I brought this up earlier. The Braves at Truist Park have a tomahawk steak that you can buy. And again, tomahawk steaks are massive, got the big bone in it, all that kind of stuff. And again, it makes sense, tomahawk Braves. I get it. And I've heard people say, oh, it's like the best steak I've ever had in my entire life. Okay, but if I'm sitting at a baseball game,
how are you going to eat that?
Yeah, like, because again, you got knife, you got fork. If you're in the chop house, you can give me a table. Okay, but if I'm sitting in my stadium seat, is that the most feasible item to eat while sitting and trying to watch this game? Because I don't think it is.
I'm glad you brought up that and the Braves, because when I was in Atlanta for the Yankee game a few weeks ago, Caroline got this pizza slice. They sell at Truist Park. It's like, it goes probably from like the top of her head down to like her breast area, and it's like a huge slice of pizza that you hold up against your head, and it's huge. Eating that thing, I mean, like, she had to like hold it like out here. she'd like lift it over the
Yeah.
top of people when they were trying to get out of the row. Like stuff like that is just wacky, but it's like you buy it because of that.
Sure.
Like I think we're gonna see a lot of people. I don't know. Having a raspberry sandwich doesn't really sound. A burrito doesn't really sound too thrilling.
By the way, how much was that piece of pizza?
Oh God, I'll have to ask her. It's probably like at least $20.
Yeah, I would think. I know what you're talking about. I've seen that, and even that's something that's like, again, it's a little bit messy. I don't know if I'd go that far with it, but yeah, I tend to stick to the basics when it comes to
$8.
$8. Wow. Okay.
$8 for the giant ballpark slice.
Okay, that's actually a good deal.
Atlanta seems to do a very good job of pricing things.
And she said it was good. She liked it.
I tried it too.
Yeah,
It was fantastic.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Like a very good slice of pizza.
that may be a thing to consider when you go to Truist Park. But yeah, if you have time, just Google weird MLB stadium food.
Look up the crickets, man. It's strange.
All 30 ballparks have something crazy to offer, and I think they're just trying to outdo each other at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's basically what it is, honestly.
It's a game of one-upsmanship.
Yeah,
I suppose is
like
the best way to phrase it.
Who can have the craziest food items? And there's a lot of, but a lot of them are good though. I will.
I don't doubt that they're good. I just don't know. Like, do I want to eat this at a baseball game?
But it's just like when you think of like a baseball game, you don't think of like, I'm gonna have all these weird. Like I'm gonna have a raspberry burrito. I'm gonna have crickets. I don't think so. I'm gonna have a slice of pizza maybe.
Hour number 1 in the books. We'll talk some quarterbacks in hour number 2. Ari Wasserman writing about, does Sellers need to be Superman for South Carolina to succeed? We'll discuss that coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Welcome back in hour number 2. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Ed and Jack Beltry, Captain Dave, along with you here on your Friday on the game, as we are only 23 days away from kickoff between South Carolina and Virginia Tech. And next week, we'll finally be into the teens. And after that, double digits. Then we got week 0, not that far away either, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And I can't figure out if August is the longest or the shortest month.
Well, I don't think it could be much longer than July, which felt like an eternity at times.
It really did. At least, and as we have some games going on right now, we'll have the Irmo Little League to follow in the World Series starting on Wednesday. So that'll be cool and help us bridge that final gap between the summer and the start of the college football season.
And we've got NFL preseason going on now, and a lot of games coming up.
I watched the Colts Ravens game last night. Again, the guy on the edge for the Ravens just cleaned Anthony Richardson's clock, and I saw a lot of people, Kurt Warner, a lot of people on Twitter pointing out, like, "Hey, man, you got to get rid of that ball." I don't know if he saw it, just didn't see him or not.
Here's the thing.
Or the way they schemed that up.
Here's the thing.
Or somebody to chip him on the edge.
Why didn't the running back?
That was another thing. Yeah,
the running back didn't block a soul on that play. And you look at it like, oh, he's just running his route, like. He was not. Yeah. He was not an intended target on that play.
You got to give your quarterback another half second there at the very least.
Yeah, at least put a hand on the guy
to slow the progress of the guy coming off the edge. Because that was the most unblocked you can possibly be. And
that was asking for an injury to happen, which of course it did.
It was, and that was his right, pinky finger, which is his throwing hand. And again, the confidence level for Colts right now with their quarterback situation between him and Daniel Jones is not high. But, and again, we talked about this earlier on the week. They're going to give Anthony Richardson every opportunity to start because they've invested a lot in him, took him high, they've developed him to the best ability. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt until they absolutely can't in terms of who their starter is going to be. But now you might just be forced to go with Daniel Jones this upcoming year, which, as you've seen with the Giants, that's only going to take you so far.
Yeah, if it wasn't the pinky finger on the throwing hand, like if it were on the other hand, maybe you can get around it, but I don't know what the recovery is going to look like on this. But, of course, a lot of people, as soon as the hit happened, like, oh, man, this guy's a bust. He sucks. Like,
what's that?
What is he? Yeah, what can Anthony Richardson do about a guy that just did not get blocked? I mean, that's asking for trouble.
Again, he's had a very shaky NFL career, but I don't put the blame on him last night because that was just an unfortunate situation, and you never want to see people get hurt, obviously. And when you saw the pinky, that thing was if the rest of his hand is pointed left, that pinky was pointed to the right.
Yeah, well, that's the most Colts news that we can receive after the first game.
So not a lot of confidence in the quarterback situation up there in Indianapolis, but a ton of confidence in the quarterback situation here at South Carolina with Lenore Sellers. We're still trying to decide on a nickname. Does Superman work? Can you just call him Superman Sellers?
I think you just, or La Heisman.
I like that.
Yeah.
Superman, is that too much? Too wordy?
La Superman's a little much. Lahim.
I like Lahim, actually.
Lahim, yeah.
But that's one that I feel like our generation gets, but not everybody will understand.
Nicky Minwari, after the Clemson game last year, did a very good job of rattling off different names for.
I remember that now.
With the La. So, I mean, you can put La in front of anything.
So whatever we want to call him, Ari Wasserman of On3 has decided to call him Superman. And yesterday, he wrote an article where he asked the question, basically, does Lenore Sellers have to be Superman for South Carolina to be successful? And this stems from, I believe, when Shane Beamer was talking in media days and asked something along these lines, where, of course, Beamer, having confidence in his team, is going to say, hey, we like what we have around him. Sellers doesn't have to do everything for us to be successful, but I can understand why Wasserman, who covers the sport very well from a national standpoint, would look at South Carolina's roster situation and say, until proven otherwise, I think Lenore Sellers going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting here.
Like right now, I would say coming into the year, you're probably looking at if South Carolina, here's the way I look at it, regardless of what the team actually does look like in terms of who's helping around him, if they want to win a national championship, yes, it is going to require Lenore Sellers to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And B, that's Superman. Again, does South Carolina win the Clemson game without him? No, I don't think you do if he's not out there and doing what he did in that game. A lot of the big plays that you get out of him are such difference makers in winning 9 games last year versus winning 5 games 2 years ago. So I think right now you would look at him like, yeah, he's got to be Superman, but the hope is that he's going to have a lot of help around him. And I think, especially offensively, it should look a lot different this year in terms of, I think the receiving room is a much improved group with a lot of freshmen who could potentially step up and help them out. The running back room, we know the story. If Rasul Faison's cleared, elevated completely, but offensive line also maybe should be better as well.
I think we have to kind of create a definition of what exactly makes him Superman, and it is those special plays that he made last year where it looked like, you know, the defense had him dead to rights, and situations like it against A&M, literally dumping defenders over his shoulder as he's evading their pressure, going out, escaping, either running for a first down or a touchdown or making a big throw down the field. It's those kind of things that, quite frankly, were a big reason why South Carolina won those 6 games down the stretch in the back half of the regular season last year that you hope he doesn't have to do again. You hope the offensive line blocking is really good. You hope your receivers are getting open. You hope your running backs are giving you a lot of a lot of production in the backfield as well. We just don't know that for sure, where I can, again, understand where Wasserman's coming from and saying, until proven otherwise, I got to see Sellers be this superhuman type of player for South Carolina to be as good, if not better, than last year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that his point is further, made on is that, look, South Carolina, as we've heard about all offseason, South Carolina has lost a ton of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for a group that was really, really solid in 2024. But let's not act like South Carolina didn't go into the portal and didn't bring new guys in to help fill those voids, where it's like, hopefully they don't miss a step. And if you're getting the same quality level of defense from a season ago, if that's what you're getting this year, then yeah, Lenoris does not have to do the heavy lifting. For as much as is made about Lenoris being Superman and stuff, the defense was probably the better. You think of like Batman and Robin, like Batman was probably the defense,
sure,
and Robin was probably Lenore Sellers, because that defense was so good. I don't know if that's the right.
I like where you're going with that. I think the quarterback automatically has to be Batman, right?
You would think, but the defense was just...
The defense was good.
Yeah, and this is not me saying, oh, Lenore Sellers is Robin. He's not good. Robin's still pretty cool.
So Robin has to be the complement, right?
Yes, the yin and yang, essentially.
Well, because yin and yang suggests one's good and one's bad.
Oh, never mind.
So, Robin is like, hey, Batman, he's the main hero. Yeah. Robin is assisting him,
yes,
right? But Batman's the one saving the day. So I would have to say it's Sellers because of the specific crazy magician-type plays, and then you add into that the defense on the other side, like, hey, that's a good, sidekick's maybe not the right word. That's a good assist to what Sellers is doing on offense.
I'm trying to I can't think of another superhero tandem that's like they both are very good and they both complement each other very well.
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. How about that? For my younger listeners.
That's a very good one. That's a very good one. Look, I'll say this, again, you need both to be successful.
Sure.
And so if you don't have a good defense this year, it doesn't matter what Lenore Sellers is doing. If your defense is giving up, let's say 50 points a game, it's going to be very hard to win a lot of games. But if you have a good defense and Sellers is out there not doing what he's supposed to do, then it's going to be tough to win games. But you have both doing what they can do like they did last year, that you're going to have the results that you did.
Now, there's no denying the way people look at this team is drastically altered by Sellers being a quarterback, because when you have the quarterback situation figured out, everything else can maybe be not as up to snuff and you can still be successful. But if you don't have a quarterback and you still have questions across the entire team, people are going to assume you're not very good. But I want to pose a question here, because how differently would we look at this team if, let's just say, Sellers was eligible to go to the draft last year and after a good season did that, and we'd be talking about a quarterback battle between Luke Doty, Cutter Woods, and Aaron Nolan going into this year instead?
Yeah, don't forget about Jimmy Francis, too.
No disrespect to Jimmy Francis.
And Cunningham as well. No, but here's the way I look at it. If Lenore Sellers is hurt at any point this year, and God forbid it happens for a while, it's you look at the standpoint of what this team can do entirely differently. It's the same way if the defense takes major step backs. You're expecting them to have a pretty good season, even though we just don't know a lot. But with the quarterback, there's no more important position on the field than the quarterback. And if you don't have a good quarterback out there, it's going to affect it. Or if you just don't have your good quarterback out there, it will really hinder what you can do.
And again, you guys, Gamecock Central and all the other outlets that get to see this team up close and personal every single day and write about it, you can see those small areas of when we're talking about a Donovan Murph, when we're talking about a J.R. Johnson, when we're talking about, a guy like Brady Hunt coming back for another year, you can see the upside potential of what those guys can be. But unfortunately, the national perspective doesn't always see that. And it's one of those, until proven otherwise, they're just going to assume what, based on what you lost and what you have coming back, what your team's going to be this year. So I'd venture to think that most people would agree that if South Carolina wants to be successful, Sellers is going to have to make some of those huge Superman-esque type of plays all season long.
Yeah, and if we see even more growth in his game, talking about the guy that does not fumble the ball. Again, we talked about it the other day. Cut your fumbles in half, and we're talking about maybe South Carolina does win 10 games last year. Maybe they are in the college football playoff and going on a run. That's something he knows he's needed to cut down on this offseason, and that's the hope going to the season, is that the fumbles will not be as high and the turnovers. You bring that number down, you're probably looking at a much more developed quarterback, and hopefully the passing continues to come along as well.
Yeah, and again, the fumbles are something this entire team has certainly struggled with, and that's something that I'm sure has been drilled into Lenora Sellers' head a lot this offseason. Like, hey, man, we love your ability, but you can't be putting the ball in harm's way like that as much as he did. And again, you can't be turning the ball over at iClip anyway if you want to survive in this conference.
No, definitely. Like, South Carolina definitely needs to take care of the turnovers, which I believe they will, knowing it's something that they have had to address for an entire offseason now.
So since we're talking about quarterbacks, a little bit of a scare in Baton Rouge the other day. We have an update on that, which we'll get to on the other side. And I want to explore, how do we look at quarterback rooms now that there is so much turnover year to year? We'll dive into that coming up next. It is the Halftime Show. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Chuck Felcher along with you here on your Friday on the Game. Reminder, 2 weeks from today, it is the Game Summer Golf Classic at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Tee time's at 9. Registration at 7:30. The onion sausages will be out for breakfast, which those were delicious last time we were out there. Saki's Wine and Spirits have the Mimosa Bar, and, of course, Firehouse Subs for lunch as well. We want to see you out there. If you want to sign up, it's $400 for a team. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Game's Summer Golf Classic. 2 days ago, there was a little bit of a scare down in Baton Rouge where there were reports, not reports, rumors, coming out of practice that Garrett Nussmeier had been seriously injured in their practice down there. Of course, closed practices, so it wasn't exactly open to media. And we gave a shout-out yesterday to Shay Dixon, who works for the Bengal Tiger, which is LSU's On3 affiliate, that he cleared the air that, yes, there was a situation where maybe he came up a little gimpy from a play, but Brian Kelly told him to walk it off, and he sat him out the rest of practice. So nothing like major, but you do have an update as to the latest with Garrett Nussmeier as of today.
So Brian Kelly was talking about that there's no major injury with Garrett Nussmeier. Instead, he's dealing with patellar tendinitis in his knee. So the way Kelly described it is that it's a chronic situation. It's tendinitis. It's like a bad ankle. He just planted the wrong way. And he also referenced the fact of it's something that kind of is dating back to 2023 with a surgery he previously had on his knee. But looking up what patellar tendinitis is, because, again, you and I are no doctors here, and I don't think Captain Dave is a doctor either, unless I'm mistaken.
Dave, do you have your doctorate? Medical doctorate?
Yeah. Are you able to provide medical advice?
Sure. I've got 20 doctorates.
I would say he sees enough doctors, maybe so.
Yeah. So, anyway, patellar tendinitis, also known as jumper's knee. Again, this is coming from Google, but it's an overuse injury affecting the patellar tendon, which connects the kneecap to the shin bone. So there's pain and tenderness in the front of the knee, basically, particularly around the lower part of the kneecap. So, point being, it seems like LSU has kind of dodged a bullet in a lot of ways here. Now, Kelly did go on to say that on a scale of 1 to 10, with like the severity of the injury, he would say about a 1.5. Now, again, that's coming from a coach, and we don't know the real extent of it, but he said this to the media publicly, and so it seems like LSU has avoided a big scare.
Yeah, well, again, a lot of their hopes lie on what Garrett Nussmeier is going to be able to do. Now, they do have a interesting backup in Michael Van Buren, who played last year at Mississippi State. And he played because Blake Shapen got hurt. But Michael Van Buren actually put up, some decent numbers and had some promise against some good teams a year ago. He was just on a very, very bad Mississippi State team. And I'm assuming that means he's going to be the future of LSU football when Garrett Nussmeier goes to the draft this upcoming year. But I think the confidence would drop off a little, probably a decent amount, if they had to turn to him instead of Garrett Nussmeier for this upcoming season. And kind of the same situation in Florida, right? So DJ Lagway last week when they started camp was in a boot, right? He's already banged up. He had the shoulder injury back in the spring, missed some time last year with an injury. Like, I'm not liking the way his career's getting started because he seems to be an injury-prone quarterback, which that can, limit you in your program in a lot of ways. And I'd say both programs, Harrison Bailey, the former Tennessee quarterback's his backup, both programs are in like, oh, we cannot go to our backup or we are in trouble situation.
Yeah, no, most definitely. With the LSU situation first, with Nussmeier being down, like, again, if they had to go to Michael Van Buren, I don't think you feel too terribly bad about it because, like, yeah, it's a little bit of a drop-off, but, like, let's not forget the really good receivers that either quarterback would be throwing to. So all you got to be able to do is get the ball over there. And we saw glimpses of what he could do at Mississippi State. And I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think he's going to be a really fun quarterback to watch over the next few years after Nussmeier. Now, the situation at Florida, much like Sellers at South Carolina, I feel like a lot of Florida's success kind of like hinges on, okay, what does DJ Lagway do?
Sure.
If he's healthy, if he's out there, he's fantastic. And we saw what happened last year when he became the full-time starter after Graham Mertz tore his ACL. But if he's not out there, it's like, who's your next option? And it's obviously not the same as Lagway.
And again, there's a reason why one guy gets to be a starting quarterback and the other guy gets to be a backup, because the one is obviously the best option, at least in the opinion of the coaching staff, your best option when it comes to, who should be calling or who should be your signal caller there. But I feel like in today's world of college football, especially because back in the day, it's not all that long ago, development and having okay, you have your quarterback that's been around for 3 or 4 years, and then you got the guy right behind him that's been in the quarterback room, that's developed with the same coach, the same coordinators, has learned the system. He's ingrained where if your main quarterback went down, you'd say, okay, well, maybe this guy's not as talented, but I know he's been here and he's been developed to where I think he can handle the job. Where now it's such a year-to-year thing. I feel like when your main quarterback goes down, obviously never a great thing, you're more worried than ever about what your backup quarterback's going to be because you just don't know.
That is the thing that really is scary. And for Florida, their backup quarterback seemingly right now could be Aiden Warner, who I believe last year did he not play?
Was he the one that came from, because they had a guy that came from one of the Ivy League schools, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure he got into that Georgia game last year. He did. So
was he at Harvard or something before?
Let's see. I think last year was his freshman year.
Okay, they had some quarterback that was from an Ivy League school.
I do remember that.
Regardless, Aiden Warner did have to come in, and he wasn't good, and that's why they lost that game against that game against Georgia.
They also had to start against Texas.
They'll start against Texas, and they got mauled in that Texas game. But, yeah, again, Lagway's a special talent, and I'm very high on Florida as long as he can stay healthy, but that's a big if considering the track record right now. And let's look at this right now. That if Sellers were to go down, okay?
The entire complexion of the season would be different.
Luke Doty, which God love him, he's hung around, and we commend him for doing that, but his ceiling is only so high. Now, you have a higher ceiling with a guy like Aaron Nolan and Cutter Woods potentially, but those guys have no experience. So if you had to go to option B at quarterback, whatever that ends up being, I mean, again, you're sounding the alarm bells around here.
Yeah, but I think you feel fine. Again, not everyone's going to feel good about Doty, but he does, in truth, give you the best chance to win if Lenoris is hurt.
You feel like he would keep the train on the tracks, right?
Yes.
Is he going to go out there and make Superman plays like Sellers? Probably not, but hopefully, if everybody else around him is playing well, it'd be like hey, get the ball to your playmakers.
Yeah.
And
trust your weapons.
Yeah, trust your weapons. Let them take care of this and just don't put the ball in harm's way.
No, and then you have, some of the throws today from the young guys, again, it's just camp, so it's these guys are not throwing with a defense in their face, but some of the Aaron Nolan's throws were not very good today, So,
yeah.
And we're talking about Lenoris Sellers being critical. I mean, some guys are being critical of the way he's throwing the balls a little bit under and stuff. So, look, I think Luke Doty does give you that best chance.
I'll go ahead and knock on wood and say, as we're talking about injuries, we hope we're not having to deal with this. And,
no.
You never want anybody injured, but so hopefully nobody has to deal with this. But it's an interesting look that a couple of fan bases that at least had scares early in this offseason of oh, no, quarterback A might not be available. What's going to happen now? Again, we're going to see what happens with Florida, certainly with Lagway as he continues to deal with his nagging injuries for only the year that he's been on campus so far.
Yeah, we'll see what happens out there in Gainesville.
Speaking of quarterbacks, yesterday we spoke with Lenoris Sellers as well as Cutter Woods as well as Luke Doty's personal quarterback trainer in Ramon Robinson. We'll react that conversation for you coming up next as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler, Jack, and Captain Dave on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on your Friday on the game. We'll get back to some more quarterback stuff here in a second. Did want to hit this, though. Nameless texter weighed in the last hour. He says, I have had the crickets in Seattle. They're okay, but not great. They're not candied, though. They are toasted with light Latin American spice and a hint of lime. Does that make you want to try them anymore?
No. Like if you gave me like $100 to go try them, I'll eat anything for $100. Like I would do it.
You would eat anything for $100?
Like anything.
You don't have a line there anywhere.
Anything's a little too broad. I think someone's gonna take that a little too literal.
Like, were you the kid that, like, did you eat a worm or anything like when you were a kid? Were you one of those?
No, I don't think so. Not $100. Like I would eat a cricket for $100, but like anything else, like it depends on what it is. Like we're talking like thousands of dollars. Like that could broaden it a little bit.
I guess if you I don't know, maybe if you close your eyes, you think you're eating, I don't know, like a spicy chip or something. Maybe.
Well, the fact that it's cooked and they put like spices on like that,
you're not eating the live thing off the ground.
And I'm sure it's actually not too bad considering they sold it.
Again, you got adventure seekers that go out there and try these kind of things.
Absolutely.
But you'd have to have some confidence for sure if you want to give that a whirl. Speaking of confidence, by the way, somebody with a lot of it, if you've been watching the Any Given Saturday Netflix series, is Diego Pavia, and he doubled down on said confidence on the Paul Feinbaum show yesterday, saying, Vanderbilt has national championship aspirations. Cut number 1 here, Dave.
Offense and defensively to go really put our foot forward and go win the national championship.
I'm not trying to act like I didn't hear what you said. I did, but you're deadly serious, right?
Yeah, I wasn't cracking the joke. That's the standard.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you national championship. That takes a great deal. I feel like I'm just having a little fun with you here, but that's quite a statement. And by the way, I've heard your coach say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, NIL, even the playing field. You know what I mean? For a lot of teams, and we feel like we got offensively and defensively our A game versus, anyone's. Like, I like my team. You ask me who the best wide receiver in the country is, I'm going to tell you someone on my team. You ask me who the best O-lineman is, I'm going to tell you someone on my team. Same thing with safeties, DBs, everything.
And best quarterback, would that be you?
You're looking at him.
It is really funny, right? Because, like, that's the answer every quarterback should give. Oh, hey, we have aspirations of winning a national championship. My guys versus anybody else, we're going to beat them. But the fact that Vanderbilt has been, and I thought it was funny on the Any Given Saturday thing, Andy Staples said, hey, Vanderbilt, in case you didn't know, they're the doormat of this conference.
Yes.
They've been stepped on every single year for decades, and now they actually look kind of interesting, and Diego Pavia is a big part of that. Like, it's so funny to me because we're still, like, bewildered as a college football public that a Vanderbilt quarterback is this confident with this much swagger.
God, I love having a guy like this in the SEC. It just adds so much flavor to this conference and a little bit of like a guy you either really want to root for or you're really despise. Like I think that's the kind of player that Diego Pavia is that you either love his brash cockiness or you just hate him. And that's crazy that we're talking about Vanderbilt in that light. Just because, again, they were fun to watch last year. They won 7 games. And, of course, the game that South Carolina played them in, South Carolina handled business no problem. But coming into this year, expectations are going to be a little bit higher for this Vanderbilt football team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, again, when you look at the history of Vanderbilt football, they haven't had much to be excited about over the years. And you want to go back to the Hope-O-Meter, which we'll touch on a little bit again in the 2 o'clock hour. That thing is probably going to be pegged towards 100 for Vanderbilt like it never has been before. And again, does Vanderbilt's fan base think they can legitimately make the playoff? Probably not. But this is the best chance they feel like they've probably ever had to do that because you do have a quarterback that can make a difference. Now, again, he's been in the league for a year. How does the league catch up with him? You're going to be playing all the exact same 8 teams that you played a year ago, including South Carolina, who did the best job of keeping him in check, or one of the best jobs keeping him in check. So how does that factor in? Well, we'll certainly have to see. But this is the most off-season coverage Vanderbilt's gotten probably since James Franklin's been there.
And they were great in Any Given Saturday, specifically Diego Pavia. You see the confidence and the swagger he plays with and the camaraderie those guys have. And also, it's not just Pavia. He's got Junior Sherrill coming back,
Sure.
his top wide receiver, his favorite target from his time at New Mexico State, who had a really good year last year, Eli Stowers, tight end, coming back.
Yep.
So this is a Vanderbilt offense that can make some noise this year. The schedule's a little tough. You have to go make the return trip to Virginia Tech in week 2 under the lights, 7:30 on September 6th. Then you go to Carolina the next week. After 3 weeks, we will really learn a ton about this Vanderbilt team.
Can Vanderbilt get to the point where people start hating them? Because, like, they're so inoffensive.
Yeah.
That it's like, you look at your schedule, okay, we'll beat Vanderbilt. Like,
And people don't take them seriously.
nobody takes them seriously, but, like, with him, and especially if they start winning, like, people outside of Tennessee, obviously, people actually might start hating Vanderbilt for the first time in a long time.
I'm telling you, man, that clip on the Feinbaum show, that is going to either be the funniest clip we see in about a year from now, or it's going to be the headline piece of the next Any Given Saturday for Vanderbilt.
You know, and if they won like 8 games this year, that's not a national championship.
But that's legit.
By Vanderbilt standards, that's pretty darn close.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you're winning 8 games, that's an improvement off of last year.
I don't know. Maybe he's the catalyst for things changing in Vanderbilt going forward.
I'm telling
We'll
you,
see.
just watch out for Vanderbilt this year. You never know.
2 hours in the books, 1 more hours to go. We'll jump back into what happened at camp today, as well as examine the Hopometer coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Welcome back in hour number 3. It is the halftime show as we wrap up at least this portion of your week. Jay and Elijah going to wrap up your week fully coming up next with the postgame show from 3 until 6 as we will, well, I guess technically Monday will be 20 days, but we'll soon be exiting the 20s and into the teens when it comes to countdown to kickoff. Tomorrow, pretty significant step in camp as the first scrimmage happens, which, again, we don't get to see, not open to the public or anything like that, but hopefully get some good reports out of that to add on to what you guys got to see earlier on this morning at camp, which, Coach Beamer, if you're listening, thank you. That it was a different set of things they got to see today because we actually got some good stuff.
It was very nice. So Shane, definitely appreciate that. Steve Fink, they do a great job over there. But yeah, we got to see 4 periods of practice today, which is one more than what we normally got to see in the first 2 days of practicing. And we're back out there on Sunday for 4 periods. So we get to see hopefully even more than what we saw today, which was really good. But again, we saw the stretching. We saw them going through their special team stuff with the punt and kick returners and whatnot. One interesting thing, Judge Collier was out there working with the return guys. That was something we had not seen, I don't believe, in the first 2 practices. So, again, the front runners for those spots seem to be Nick Harbor as probably the kickoff returner, then Jalen Kilgore as the punt returner, but you have a lot of freshmen back there working, a lot of other guys we've seen, Rasul Faison back there catching punts and kicks. I mean, we'll see what happens, but a lot of guys are working back there, and now Judge Collier seems to be one of them as well.
Yeah, and look, Judge Collier is going to play a vital role in this defense. This year is that that one side of the field when it comes to corner, and we joked about this the other day. Like, we have talked about him probably the least of anybody on the defense this year, which I think is a compliment to him because you're like, oh yeah, Judge got one spot, no question about that, no competition. You're just kind of saying, okay, and I'm assuming it's Cisse on the other side. But I think that's a testament to how good he's been in his time here at South Carolina. We're like, oh yeah, he's got that on lock, no issue there, and the DB room as a whole, you feel pretty confident about.
He's been great. Again, he's the one. I feel like he's one of the few guys besides like Dylan Stewart, him, maybe even DQ Smith. That's like, you know what they're going to be.
Yeah.
You know that they're going to be starting no problem and that what they can give you is really good. And I would go ahead and say, like, Dylan Stewart and Jalen Kilgore are probably the best 2 defenders you have on this team right now. And so having him also as a punt returner as well, looking forward to seeing what that looks like again this season.
Yeah, and like you said, you got Nick Harbor as the leader for kickoff, and you have Jalen Kilgore at the lead for punt return, which makes a lot of sense. And Kilgore's done a lot of that in his time here at South Carolina. And my God, if you can get Harbor into an open field where he can just use that straight line speed,
man.
Kickoff is where that would come into play. And again, you saw him getting into that mix a little bit more towards the end of last year. Obviously, Juju McDowell was your primary punt returner there. But, man, I contend. I know the Xavier Legette touchdown run or kickoff return touchdown against A&M in 22 was cited as one of the loudest moments in Willie B history. Even if it is against, like, SC State. Again,
but still, it's cool.
If it happens, because, again, we've been waiting for Nick Harbor to have that moment. He's had some good plays, but there's never been that definitive, oh my God, here's his breakout moment like that was for Legette back in 2022. You let that happen in a home game this year, they might have to rebuild the stadium.
It's going to be nuts to think about. Think about what that did for Xavier Legette in 2022. That was before the 1,000-yard season he had the following year. People want to talk about the Gator Bowl being his coming out moment, which in a lot of respects, as a receiver, it was because he had 2 touchdowns in that game.
He had that one of those crazy catch, right?
Oh, yeah. He was phenomenal in that game. That was probably his receiver breakout moment, but his overall big, huge moment was definitely that kickoff return touchdown.
And you can draw some similarities, certainly, between the way people talk about Legette and the way people talk about Harbor. Obviously, Harbor was a 5-star prospect, and he's been at the top of people's minds his entire time here because of that high profile. But both those guys look the part. And I remember Dow Loggins talking about Legette, saying when he got here, he's like, hey, who's 17? Who's that guy over there? Like, he's the one that stuck out to him immediately, I think, in the bowl practice for that Gator Bowl a couple years ago, and obviously ended up being such an important part of that offense back in 2023. And if you've ever been around Nick Harbor, he certainly looks the part as well. You're just kind of waiting for that next level, that next step. And, the back half of last year, coinciding with what Sellers was doing, you saw Harbor start to really kind of come into his own, and thankfully, he stuck with football this offseason to where, he's going to run track for 4 or 5 months, and he's going to have to start back over when the summer gets here. So hopefully you take the end of last year as a starting point, And by the end of the season, we're saying, wow, look at how much he improved year to year, where, again, hopefully we're talking about him as maybe one of the more consistent wide receivers in the SEC.
Like, you're talking about a guy that had over 300 yards receiving last year. You're hoping he can really put it together, maybe double that, maybe get to 600, 700 yards. I think that'd be a solid year for him, especially since you're hoping that you're relying on a lot of guys in that room. Speaking of which, South Carolina could potentially also be relying on a lot of freshman receivers.
Certainly so, and that's another thing that was noted earlier on this morning was specifically Donovan Murph, who, again, is one of those guys that's been talked about a lot as our mini freshman in this wide receiver class and what his ability to come in and make an impact is. And I can't remember if it was Wes or Chris, but noted about his route running.
Yeah.
And again, it's routes on air, so you don't have a guy opposed to you. So we'll have to see what that's going to be like in game situations. But good, effective route runner in those scenarios. And then perhaps had the highlight of the day with his one-handed catch in practice as well.
It was a very, very good play from him. Seeing that highlight is just, it makes you excited, I think, if you're a South Carolina fan. Like, yeah, again, it's just on air, but it's like no one's guarding him. But still, the athleticism it takes. It wasn't even that good of a throw.
It was a little high.
Yeah, like the throws were not great today. Let's just say that. Like, you got Lenore Sellers, who I think is going to be fine. You got Aaron Nolan thrown out there, Luke Doty, but great catch by Donovan on that play there. And then obviously, Nick Harbor, I think, looked pretty good out there running routes. Mazio Bennett had a nice grab. I think there's a lot of excitement about this receiver group because last year, I remember Dow Loggins, the former OC for Carolina before taking the job at App State. He spoke about, South Carolina doesn't have a true number one wide receiver. They're doing this by committee and kind of figuring out what they're going to do as they go. And it's tough when you don't have Xavier to get back for another season because he ran out of eligibility, went to the draft, got selected by the Panthers, and now you're looking at, okay, who you got? Mazio Bennett. What's Nick Harbor going to be? What's this Jared Brown guy going to be? You have a lot more security answers this year, I think.
As somebody else that really kind of flies under the radar is Vandrevius Jacobs.
Totally.
It was noted today that he was back out there practicing after, being banged up maybe through the first couple days of practice, which is good to see. And look, he dealt with a lot of injuries last year that kept him sidelined. And when he did get to play, I'm just looking at this here. He had in the 7 games that he played, if we're denoting a explosive play to be 15 yards or more, he had an explosive play of 15 or more yards in 4 of the 7 games he played in last year. When he got the ball in his hands, he made things happen.
Yeah, him and Dale Von Campbell were like those two guys that, like, you see them go out there, they're probably if they get the ball, they could probably go 30 yards. And we go back to this year. Think about that really good throw that we talked about for months with Cutter Woods in the spring game. His first throw was to Vandrevius Jacobs for a 51-yard gain. So we're talking about a guy that give the ball to him. He hasn't really shown to be the most consistent in terms of doing that over and over again and maybe even making a few more plays even for short yardage. But he's a guy that you need a deep ball, throw him the rock. He could probably go out there and get it.
Yeah, and again, he was somebody, when he came in from Florida State, we knew it was going to be kind of a developmental type of thing. We didn't expect him to come in and set the world on fire as a freshman. And again, injuries held him back from that as well. But he's somebody that you can't certainly count out in being a potential significant contributor in the wide receiver room this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you have him out there as your 4th best guy, I think that says a lot. And I don't know how exactly the room is going to ultimately shake out. We talk a lot about the veterans in the room with Jared Brown, Nick Harbor, Mazio Bennett is probably your top 3 if the season started today. But what about guys like Malik Clark, Brian Rowe, guys who had awesome spring games, guys that we're hearing a lot about doing good things as fall practice gets going? What about guys like that? What about the other guys in that room that we don't even talk about hardly with, like, guys like Jordan Gidron, Jaden Sellers? I don't expect those guys to make much of an impact this year, but there are a lot of freshmen, like Cyrus, there are a lot of freshman receivers on this team that if South Carolina needs someone to step up, I would not shock me if it was one of these guys.
You hope Sellers can at least throw one to his brother this year, right?
I think the SC State game is probably where we'll get to see something like that. Hopefully it's a blowout. Hopefully you're able to get everyone in and empty the bench. And by that point, though, I'm sure it'll be like someone else throwing to Jaden Sellers.
Were you on the show? It's when we were at a firehouse the other week. Were you on the show when I went down the rabbit hole with Wes and Chris of brothers that have scored touchdowns in college football?
I was not.
Because we were talking about it, that, again, you have an opportunity with the Sellers brothers because Jeremy with the Garnet Trust had taken both of them out fishing the day before when he was on the show with us. And, we said, you have an opportunity that again, if Sellers, Lenore, I have to designate by first name now. Lenore's may only have one more year here at Carolina if he plays really well. So this could be the only season where they could potentially hook up for a touchdown. And I was racking my brain to figure out, okay, how many quarterbacks or how many brothers have scored touchdowns in the stance of like quarterback throwing to a brother that's a receiver, running back, or whatever it may be. And I can only think of the Johnson brothers at A&M a couple years ago because Max was the quarterback, Jake was the tight end. They connected a few times, but I went to Reddit because whenever you have a question that Google can't answer, you go to Reddit to figure those kind of things out. And it actually unfurled quite a long list of quarterback brothers that did score together. I'll actually show you my list while we're sitting here. That's the responses I got, at least. You got, the Booty brothers. I know I didn't make that up at LSU.
Trevor Knight. I forgot about Kellen.
The McCarron brothers at Alabama.
That's right. Oh man.
What else do we have here?
Doug and Darren.
Doug and Darren Flutie. It was a lot more than I thought it was.
Man.
So,
you gotta start using ChatGPT, man. That thing is
it's funny.
That thing is saving the day.
It's really funny because typically when we're doing the show, I'm not sitting at a point where I can see what's going on your laptop screen. And I saw you using ChatGPT yesterday. I'm like, wait a minute, that's actually really cool.
My mom was telling me like a few weeks ago, you're like, I just use ChatGPT. I'm like, I don't use it, and she's like, why not? Like I use it for everything. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll give it a try. And I've honestly used it for a lot of stuff when I need like little details that I just cannot find on my own. ChatGPT.
Do you have to pay for it? Is it free?
No, it's free.
Okay.
It's like it's like a better version of Google. It just it literally pulls up, like when we're talking about all the different football teams. Like I don't know everything about these teams. It just gives you a quick synopsis about the teams.
See, maybe I'm like old man yells at cloud, but I've looked at AI. I'm like, I don't need that, because when you Google stuff and the AI thing comes up, a lot of the times it's not true, and you have to like actually dig and
but it has links to the source.
Okay, that's good.
So it's like it really does a nice job, and honestly, like it's pretty good. So
yeah, interesting. I may have to use that, but yeah, that was my rabbit hole of quarterbacks, or excuse me, brothers scoring touchdowns in college football, and I hope the Sellers brothers can add their name to that list. But like I said, I don't know how big of an impact Jaden's going to make in year number one. But again, you have a pretty darn good crop of young wide receivers that somebody in that room is going to break out, whether it be Donovan Murph, whether it be Brian Rowe, whoever. Somebody's going to make some kind of impact this year.
One of these days, we're going to have to go through a bold predictions list of like which if you have to pick one freshman to make the biggest impact, who do you pick?
That sounds like a game week.
Yes.
When we're giving out like the hot takes of what's going to happen this year, that might be one for game week to put there on the back burner.
Because you know what's going to happen. At least one freshman's going to do something. One freshman's
going to make a big deal, make a big impact, and there's no doubt that was Dylan Stewart a year ago. So we'll think about our candidates and talk about that before the season does get here. I want to hit this today as well. Coming up next, Jimbo Fisher is laying claim to his national championship team at Florida State. Maybe being the best ever. Is he right? And let's talk about some hypothetical matchups between some of the best teams of all time. That's up next as the halftime show rolls along. It's Howard Head and Jack Belcher on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Friday on the game. We're still in the midst of talking season. And when somebody says something controversial, of course, we have to bring it up. And when you're talking about the greatest college football teams of all time, I think everybody has their go-to answer on who they think is the best above all else. Well, Jimbo Fisher, rightfully so, coached a undefeated Florida State team in 2013 to a national championship, and he recently on a podcast discussed why he thinks they were the most dominant team college football's ever seen.
People don't realize this. If you go back and look in the last 90 years of football, do you know that's the most dominant team in NCAA history? Point differential. See, LSU broke our record by most points in a season by 1 point, but they played an extra game.
And not only that, so like you mentioned earlier,
we called the dogs off at halftime. We weren't trying to do it. We didn't know. That's just what we played. But you remember, we led the country in defense that year in scoring. Our point differential was 39 points a game. The largest top 5 deficit, the 51-14 game. Largest top 25 deficit, the Maryland 62-0 game. They were top 25, beat them 62-0. Beat Clemson 51-14, who was 2 top 5 teams who finished in the top 5. I mean, those teams, remember the NC State game, we're up 35-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that, but I'm just saying how dominant that team wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Whoever we played, if you look it up, it doesn't get the respect. Every guy on that team played in the NFL. It started and played. That secondary, all of them played 8 or more years. Terrence Brooks, I mean, how good a player he was. I mean, PJ and Darby and Jalen and LaMarcus and Terrence and Telvin and Eddie and I mean the whole crew up from Timmy. I mean, all of them. I mean, on the offensive line, everybody played forever. And then that team does not get the respect and had the best kicker.
Yeah.
And our punter would have been one of the tops in the country. He just didn't punt enough. He didn't qualify enough. He didn't have enough punts.
Yeah.
I mean, that team does not get the respect, and I'll put that team up with any team in the college football ever.
So I don't know if that's a team that gets talked about quite as much in the pantheon of greatest college football teams of all time, but he does make some good points, and I remember watching that season for Florida State. They left no doubt pretty much every single game. The Auburn game in the national championship was the only one that was really close, and Jameis had to lead that late touchdown drive for them to win the last BCS national championship. But it begs the question in my mind, if you could match up 2 teams from any era of college football, most likely national champions, what 2 teams would you face off against each other in your perceived best versus best?
Ooh. I'm trying to think. I would probably put this Florida State team in there.
Okay.
Because they were so good. Honestly, this might be an underrated one because I don't think they played a full season. But that 2020 Alabama team.
That 2020 Alabama team was really good.
That 2020 Alabama team. If I could put that 2020 team of receivers with Tua Tagovailoa, I think most of them played together in 2019, which I think was probably a little bit better team. But, I mean, my gosh.
Devontae Smith that year.
He was unbelievable.
I think had one of the most convincing Heisman campaigns of all time.
Easily.
Because there was no doubt in my mind. Because, again, this was a receiver, which I know Travis Hunter won it last year as receiver and cornerback. But the thought of a receiver winning the Heisman Trophy in 2020 was absurd. But he was so much better than every other player in college football. There's no doubt. If I had to pick one athlete to just go back or a college football player to watch their highlight tape on loop, it would probably be Devontae Smith because he was that freaking good.
He was absolutely insane. I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of those Alabama teams. There's some like 2011 was really good. 2012 was a really solid Alabama team as well. Even 09. But, that 2020 team, they probably don't get enough credit just because it was during the COVID season.
So I gave some thought to this last night. I would probably go with the 2001 Miami Hurricanes versus the 2019 LSU Tigers.
Oh, man, that 2019 LSU team.
So, and look, the 2001 Miami team was very capable on offense, and they had Clinton Portis and Willis McGahee and Jeremy Shockey and all those kind of guys. But that defense was legendary. Listen to some of these names that were on the defense that year. Antrell Roll, Vince Wilfork, Jonathan Vilma, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, just to name a few. I could keep going here. But they had perhaps the best defensive in terms of who's who that college football's maybe ever seen. And to have a high-flying LSU offense go up against that kind of nasty defense, I mean, sign me up.
But that LSU offense, we're talking about Joe Burrow, who threw 60 touchdowns and threw for almost 6,000 yards. he was playing a video game.
Yeah.
Against teams that year.
Do you remember? I think it was in the Peach Bowl where he hit the no look, where
Yeah.
he threw it, and he's walking towards the sideline. It was either Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, knowing they were going to catch it and score the touchdown. He didn't even need to see it, the play finish.
No. Like, and I think people also forget, as good as a passing team as that was, they also had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who had 1,400 yards on the ground and 16 touchdowns. I mean, it stinks that he hasn't really worked out at the NFL level, but I mean, he was a really nice running back that you're like, you could be solid with him.
And look, they had really good defenders too. Grant Delpit, Caleb Chase on, Patrick Queen, Derek Stingley Jr. Like, they had a pretty good who's who on defense as well. So they'd certainly be able to hold their own. But like, if I'm picking hypothetical matchups, I think that game would be so much fun.
Like, I'm just looking back at these stats, I'm just like mind blown. The fact that LSU had two 1,500-yard plus receivers.
Yep.
Jamar Chase had 1,780 in terms of yards, 20 touchdowns.
Yep.
Justin Jefferson right behind him, 1,540, 18 touchdowns.
And I think it adds to the legacy where all three of those guys have gone on and are the best at the respective spots in the NFL now too.
Like, even a guy like Terrence Marshall, who's he with now? He was drafted by the Panthers. Let's see where he's at now. Even a guy like Thaddeus Moss, who I don't think got drafted, he was a very nice tight end to have. He's with the all right. So Terrence Marshall's with the Eagles. He hasn't really panned out at the NFL level, but like, I mean, he was so good in college too.
Nameless Texter says 2019 LSU versus 2022 Georgia.
Ooh,
Might be because that was a good Georgia defense.
That defense was loaded.
I mean, that entire defense plays for the Eagles now, basically.
Like, that defense was really phenomenal. But getting back to the starting point of this, I mean, that Florida State team. Jameis Winston, Kelvin Benjamin.
Yep.
Who did they have? They had Rashad Green. Who did they have at running back?
Devonta Freeman.
Devonta Freeman. That's right.
Nick O'Leary at tight end.
He's a good tight end too from back in the day. Good team right there.
Just some guys naming dudes. Great college football teams of all time. But yeah, I knew when Jimbo said that was going to stir up some controversy for sure.
But it's a really good team.
It was a good team.
You can't deny it.
They don't get talked about as much, but he does make some really good points there. Of course, we're 23 days away from kickoff between Carolina and Virginia Tech. Earlier on this morning on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, we talked with Gary Stokan, the CEO and president of the Peach Bowl and the Aflac Kickoff. We'll react that conversation for you coming up next as the halftime show rolls along here on your Friday on the Game.
He's a starting wide receiver, backup corner. Are you going to play more at corner in this game to brush him up there, get it better against a physical team, or are you going to play more on offense?
So he very naturally, when he got here, his most natural, if you would just say position, is probably corner. Like without a lot of coaching in the National Football League, what can he go do? Maybe
Fair.
the easiest was corner. So hence why we deployed him so much more on offense throughout the spring and summer, was to develop the offensive skill set that maybe just wasn't quite there yet, because corner was so natural. He's done some great things out here. So I think it'll probably be balanced, but maybe, as you mentioned, a little bit more defensive strong.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Jack Belcher, Captain Dave, wrapping up your Friday here on The Game. That was Jaguars' new head coach Liam Cohen on the Up and Adams podcast yesterday, talking about Travis Hunter as the Jaguars will get their preseason started. Coming up tomorrow is to take on the Steelers at 7 o'clock, and we're going to see Travis Hunter play both offense and defense, though he is listed as the backup corner on their depth chart, I believe.
Yeah,
and starting wide receiver.
And again, with a preseason game, we won't see him play the entire game.
Sure.
So it won't be like college, where at Colorado, you see him playing over 100 snaps. Which, the big question is not if he can do it. We've seen him do it. It's more so, is it going to be sustainable at the NFL level?
Here's my thing: is like, if he's being asked to do that, the Jaguars don't have enough talent. Right?
Yeah.
Because ideally, you want him to focus on, like, again, if he's your backup at corner, that's fine. Hey, somebody goes down with an injury, you can put him out there, that's fine. But you ideally want him to focus on one position. Wide receiver, if that's going to be the case, let him focus on wide receiver and be the best wide receiver can be. Because at that level, it's so complex, I don't know how successful you can be doing both.
That is a really interesting point you make there. And again, when you have your starting quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, coming out saying, like, hey, you need to probably pick one or the other. Here's the quote that he said about Travis Hunter. He said, quote, "He's so talented, it's hard to keep him off the field. Selfishly, I definitely want him on offense more." And I told him, do you want to catch touchdowns, or do you want to maybe break up a pass or two? That's a decision you'll have to make. He'll make plays wherever he is, but obviously as a quarterback, I hope he plays more on offense. Wherever he plays to make us better, because he will make us better, I'm all for whatever that is. So when you have your quarterback come out and saying something like that, it's almost like you have to kind of decide, like, what you're going to do. Like, I just don't think it wouldn't shock me if he proves people wrong, but it's like him playing both in the NFL, it's a different game compared to college.
So I was thinking about this because, again, I don't expect him to play both sides of the ball frequently. I think it is going to be one or the other. But let's say he does consistently go back and forth between offense and defense. Would this be like a Shohei Ohtani level of, like, every time he does something, it becomes a big deal because he's such a unicorn in terms of the sport that he's playing and the level he's playing at?
Probably. It probably will be. The amount the MLB glazes Shohei Ohtani, I'm sure the NFL will glaze the heck out of Travis Hunter. I almost wonder if it's more so like a Charles Woodson type of situation where he can go out there and do a little bit of both. Personally, I don't know. I think he's probably going to ultimately stick with offense. I don't know. I mean, I could see me also just sticking with defense too, but I think you talk about Trevor Lawrence wanting to have him out there at receiver. I think that's probably ultimately where it's going to go in the future.
Are you more inclined to watch the Jaguars now that he's on the team because he is this special kind of athlete?
No, like I'll watch him on Red Zone. If they come up on Red Zone, I'll watch. But I'm not probably going out unless the Bills are playing them or unless it's the only game on. Probably
Thursday night.
I'm probably not going out of my way to. I'm going to go watch the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's fair.
Like, they could be a better team this year. I mean, I think if Trevor Lawrence has a good year, in the AFC South, AFC South is not a good division.
No, it's not.
And the Colts losing AR for not a little bit. Maybe he'll be back in practice tomorrow. But, I mean, the AFC South is wide open.
I think the Texans probably have that division on lock once again.
But you never know.
So that's tomorrow with preseason between the Jaguars and the Steelers. Tonight, if you have time, you can actually make it up to Charlotte if you go quick enough. You can watch the Browns and the Panthers.
Yep.
Where Shador Sanders is getting the start tonight in what is turned into a bit of a tumultuous quarterback room with Kenny Pickett as well as Dylan Gabriel banged up. And all right, Shador, here's your chance. Go out there and prove yourself.
Yeah. So Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Kenny Pickett are all out tonight. So you have Shador getting the start, and then you have Snoop Huntley, or Tyler Huntley, whatever you want to call him, playing tonight as well. But did you see the ticket prices for this game?
I did not. I figured they'd be cheap because it's preseason. Are they expensive?
54 is the lowest right now for a game. So I'm looking.
Do they open up the whole stadium?
They do. They do. Upper Deck. The lowest price ticket I'm seeing on here for 2 tickets, $63.
Wow.
You want to go to the lower bowl? You're talking about 100 to about 250. Honestly, 300 actually is like.
I wouldn't pay $100 for 10 years worth of preseason tickets.
No, I'm sorry. A preseason game is not worth that much money.
No.
And it's all because of, Shedeur Sanders is starting, which he'll probably play a few series, and he'll actually probably play a lot, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. But again,
that's why the ticket prices are jacked up so much.
I guess. I don't know.
Preseason tickets should cost $10 for the Upper Deck.
Honestly, I would not pay more than probably $15 to go to a preseason game, if I'm being honest.
No. Who's paying $100 when you can do that for a regular season Panthers game, depending on the opponent?
Yeah, well, and depending on if the Panthers are good or not this year, maybe even less.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, but that's coming up tonight. That's some football action going on this weekend. And again, we get back in here on Monday. We'll be at 20 days until kickoff as, we're getting close.
Yes, under 3 weeks the next time we talk. It'll be awesome.
Absolutely. Appreciate you filling in this week. We'll see what next week has in store and go from there.
Yeah, if you guys need me with Bill, I got you. So
that'll do it for the halftime show. Coming up next, it is the postgame show, Jay and Elijah, to wrap up your week here on The Game.